This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation. We have a guest in the studio. Before we introduce her, let's hear the day's proverb, CT.
Jino la pembe si dawa ya pengo.
Jino la pembe si dawa ya pengo.
Yes, an ivory tooth is no cure for a lost tooth.
Okay.
Cure being the operative word here. Yes.
Jino la pembe si dawa ya pengo.
Yes.
Sawa basi. Sawa ende. Sijaelewa lakini tutaendelea tu.
Well, that is the beauty of proverb, is it not?
Yes.
You don't have to understand it in the first go, nor the second.
Yeah.
In fact, you don't have to understand it at all.
You can just float.
Float and ask questions.
Live and let live.
Sound deep.
Let's ask our guest. Her Excellency Uasin, the Governor of Kirinyaga County. Good morning.
Morning, Eric.
Good to have you in the Situation Room, finally.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, the last time we had a conversation with you was virtual conversation. And at the moment you were telling us, you are listening to the ground. And we asked you directly, are you going to make a move to UDA? And you said, I'm listening to the ground, listening to the ground. A short moment later, we saw you in Karen, and you had joined UDA. And you were smiling and you looked happy. What had the ground told you?
The ground told me to go to UDA. That's what the ground told me. The ground here, we're referring to the electorate. I listened because listening means you want to hear the view of the people who are going to vote for you, mostly, and even the region, even if they're not voting for you, And what happened is that if you go to Mount Kenya region, even before you speak, they are very clear that the party is UDA and their presidential candidate is William Samoei Ruto. It's just a fact. Anyone who tells you otherwise is in denial. Go to the markets, just ask around. And because I have worked very hard for Kirinyaga people, in fact, my slogan for the campaign is Kazi Yonge in Kikuyu Wera Warie, because I'm very confident about the work that I have done for them. They told me, you have worked, but if you continue in the direction you are, we will not elect you. We will elect according to the party. So I had to respect the wishes of the electorate, because bottom line, they're the ones who employ us, and they determine to a large extent the vehicle that they think that you should be in, and they had their reasons for that.
What does that do for your previously held beliefs, Governor, that who you had aligned yourself with, there are certain ideologies you went with? Was there an instant shift in these ideologies by moving? Or do you say, well, I hold them, but I'm just going to go with what the people are saying?
I've said again, and I think I even said it in the last show, there's no significant ideology in our political parties, really. In my view. All of them are seeking to achieve the same agenda. I think the only difference is who is the leader and whether you can trust that leader. And at the time I was in Jubilee, we were all in Jubilee. Even the current deputy president is in Jubilee, and still is actually, in technical terms, on paper. They were elected on Jubilee, we were all elected on Jubilee. Many of us have now shifted to the new vehicle that we will go in to the next government, which is the UDA. So there's really no change of ideology as such. We just continuing the promises that we had made to our people. At the time when I was on the handshake side, I stood with the president just like everybody else did when we supported him to run second term and to be in government. But also he's exiting, And so you've been told the future is this vehicle. This is the vehicle for the future. And you get into that vehicle. So it's not so much about a change in your ideologies. In fact, in my belief, the person who will be best to continue the legacy that is there right now in Jubilee, especially in terms of development and the Big Four, is the current deputy president, because he has been inside. So the only thing that's changing is the bus.
Is the bus and the color.
Yeah, and the color.
Right, there's red, and now it's a whole yellow
and
brigade.
The driver. And the driver.
And the driver.
Yeah.
Well, so the navigator now becomes the driver of that bus.
Yes, and who's better to drive the bus than the person who has been there navigating. Yeah, they have the experience.
Governor, since you joined the UDA, you've been going around the country. You've been exuding this newfound level of, can you say, is it confidence? Is it happiness? Are you just being boisterous? Is it because of the kind of position that you hold within the UDA circles? Are you in the inner circle of UDA?
Let me say, I think I'm happier. It's always easier, first of all, to be, when you're in politics, to be confident that you have the support base, right? First, being in UDA by itself just releases a lot of pressure from my head.
Gives you a leg up.
Yeah, because before that we were going upstream. You're going against the tide. So it's very difficult. It's always frustrating. So that's one. But two, I feel a lot freer. I mean, a lot happier. And it's because, let me put it in quotes, we are not in government, so to speak. We are like...
You're the opposition in
we
government.
are like the opposition right now. And on the other side, we're in government. There are too many centers of power. And so the different people pulling in different directions. You are supposed to be going this way. But this one has an agenda with their troops going that way. There's another one, and they're all seemingly powerful people. It gets very frustrating. Someone goes on TV, says something and takes your party in another direction. Another one comes and says the other thing. Then you're trying to, let's say, for example, like on the BBI, we couldn't even agree on basic things sometimes, even just where are you going to go? Who is going to handle the secretariat? These people are handling the secretariat, but there's somebody else controlling the decisions in another place who doesn't hold the title of... It was quite frustrating, to be very honest. And I'm very glad to be out of there. It was like putting, a heavy load that was on my shoulders down.
You used to feel caged.
I think so, and very restricted.
And
very
restricted in what you think or what you say.
Everything. Everything has to be measured. If you remember, we couldn't even say for a very long time that there is a problem, with the party. For a long time, we kept pretending that everything was okay, and we knew it wasn't. But because there are certain people you think that you can't quite say, I think we need to do something about this party. We were very stifled. Let me tell you. And then amongst ourselves, there was people who, as I said, there were different centers of power, but they also had their own different agendas. They think this one is becoming very popular. You're in the same team, but they're the ones pulling you down, not the opposition. So they have this whole thing lined up to just bring this person down, and you're in exactly the same team. You're supposed to be running the same agenda. So I feel very free. Let me tell you, and I feel much happier and relieved. Happy to be new.
This new freedom and happiness that you speak of now, Governor, how do you think it's going to help you to fulfill whatever development agenda? Because the assumption is, and I guess you can go ahead and say it then, that you will be seeking a second term as the governor of Kirinyaga County, right? So how do you think it's going to help you do anything differently? How do you think it's going to help you then push forth the agenda that you have?
Yes, I'm going for a second term. I'm working at it very hard. And I think it will help me. If you remember, for example, I had a very difficult time in my second year when they ran this issue of the health sector. That thing was political, and it was political that's what I mean, from somebody who was inside our side, who was fighting me. My impeachment was being pushed by someone on the same side that I was, not from this other side of the opposition. And they're the ones who are financing, they were the ones who are pushing for it, they're getting all the negative media coverages and all that from your own side. So how will this help me being on this side? First of all, let me say that the deputy president is a very hands-on person. I'm sure you've seen that. And on my experience and so far, what I've seen on this side, he is very involved in the party affairs and his side, the members of parliament, the governors. He's very involved. And I do not see something like that happening on his side, because he would not just be sitting there watching somebody pulling down a strong member of his team. And I've watched him, you know, if something like that, he will actually text you and say, wachana na hiyo mambo tafadhali. You know, he's hands-on, he's there. And I feel confident that when we're in the UDA government, and I am on my second term, if something like that was to arise, I think there's a place I could go and I would find help. You know, and find help before it gets out of hand. You know, in the beginning, what really is the issue? Why are you fighting your sister or your brother? Because you're supposed to be...
You could get help.
Yeah, we're supposed to be...
Are you
pushing the UDA
comparing this...
agenda.
So we're comparing this to before you jumped ship and what was happening. Are we also able to compare it to when you were serving as a cabinet secretary? Because even then, when you were cabinet secretary, I mean, you faced quite a lot of... can I just call them arrows and bows, and I mean, everything was just being thrown at you. Were you getting the support that you should have gotten, or are you saying that even then you were not feeling the support, or you were feeling like the fight is coming from inside?
I think the time I was in cabinet was different, because that fight was coming from the opposition mostly, driven by the people who are on the outside for whatever political interests they had. And usually you can accept it if the fight is coming from the opposition, because that is expected. I think what I'm talking about is when the fight is internal. You know, that is usually the one that is very difficult. You expect opposition to pull you down. You expect them to not say anything that you've done or recognize anything good that you have done, because that is why they are called the opposition. They oppose almost everything that you do. That is expected. So I think I'm talking now as a politician. And by the way, then I was so naive. You know, I sat there and listened. Now I wouldn't take it sitting, by the way. You would throw a missile, I will be right back at you. Exactly. Then I couldn't even talk back really to the then...
politicians.
Yeah, politicians. They would say whatever it is, and because I was a cabinet secretary and a technocrat, you're told it's okay, the politicians will handle it. But you know, I've learned in this thing, the only person who can handle your stuff is yourself. And now that I'm a politician, you throw a barb, I will respond with equal, if not more, force. And then now they're a bit more contained. People won't just wake up and throw around things without proof. Then we were being nice technocrats, and
now there's a little bit of respect.
Yeah, and I think that's also it. They respect you because you've under seat. Then they thought, token, you know, you have a huge ministry. What did you do to deserve it? And they came up with all manner of theories as to why. But yeah, so it's a very different ballgame now, I think.
One of the things that somebody who was sitting on that seat brought up, it was an interesting perspective. Richard Onyonka, Honorable Richard Onyonka. And it was the subject and the topic of the gender balance within our political sphere. Now that you're in UDA, is it possible for you to tell us what it is that UDA has done, hopes to do in support of more female participation at all levels of the political sphere in this country?
I'm glad you asked that, because one of the things that I have really, really been pushing in the country, even in my political career, is to see more women in positions of leadership, and especially political leadership. I think we're doing very well in the judiciary, and we're doing very well in the government generally. We're hitting 30-40%, but in the political sphere, we're not doing very well. And UDA, I must say, if you look at even just the people that are around the deputy president, you will see a significant number of women leaders. You just see them, and they're there in front. If you look at the women running, for example, for governor seats, we are guaranteed from UDA at least 7 women governors. 7. We were just looking at their numbers this week in terms of how they are rating in polls. I said at least 7. The candidates are about 10, but at least 7 will be women governors from the UDA party. And they're doing well. How is UDA doing that? First of all, they've encouraged them to stand. You know, that is something very bold for a party to do. Then they have supported them. They have supported them. When a woman is a UDA candidate, let's say for governor, when we come to your region, you're given the prominence that you deserve. You are actually campaigned for deliberately by the team, not just the deputy president. He makes very frequent visits to the places where these candidates are running as governors, and encourages them, even not just at the political front in terms of rallies and all, even personally, he encourages them and supports them and calls you and tells you can't give up, keep at it, look at your numbers, you can do this, And I see him sitting there with a pen and paper, helping someone, saying, on this area, you're strong in this area, but this area and this area, you're not very strong, and therefore would like to give you support. And this weekend, this is what I want to see you doing. So and so and so and so and so, go with her. I mean, that is a fantastic way to support women leaders. You wouldn't know it when you're out here, but we see it. When I was coming to even before I came, they gave me my numbers. They told me, these are your ratings. We've done the polls in Kirinyaga, you're doing pretty well. But we think that you stand a chance to win, but you also have very serious challenges here and there. And I think if you came on our side, you are guaranteed to win if you win the nominations. Why don't you think about it? So I think that encouragement of women to stand, to be confident enough to engage directly.
So there's technical support, basically, that's coming from the party at party level.
Technical.
And then there's a moral encouragement that's coming from the party leadership.
Yes.
And what else? Is there
there's
any promise
peer
of financial support?
There's peer support and financial, in the sense that not that you're given the resources, but when they plan the meetings for you, that's a burden off you. You see, you didn't bear that cost. So if they come and like when he's going around, that's his cost. But you use that platform to actually speak and sell your agenda, and that helps.
How would you
in the
compare
party
this?
structures.
Sorry, how would you compare this to 2017 when you were vying for governor?
It was a bit different. It was a bit different in the sense that we got support still from the party after nomination. But before nominations, basically everybody was on their own, And the party wasn't as deliberate then on women candidature. And also, I don't think the campaign had run this vigorously. You see, we haven't even gotten to nominations, and there's very frequent rallies. People may not understand that, but that helps people who are coming up, because you get the platform before even nominations. In the other time, we were getting now the platform after nomination. That's when now you would, because that's when they started like running almost every other day. But now, because we started a bit earlier, you have a chance to sell your idea, to be known even before you get there. And it's very helpful for women candidates. The other thing that they do, you'll be also amazed that in the UDA party, the men seem to be very confident. They have no problem coming to say, like there's one particular county where we have a female running for governor, and there's a gentleman as well. You should see the way they handle themselves and the way they work together, even when we are out there. It's amazing, the support. There's no that insecurity that comes that this is a very strong woman. We have a way, especially some of us who are very strong personalities, to sort of kind of, maybe, I don't know whether intimidate, or some people feel that they need to pull you down.
Yeah.
But there isn't that. There's a lot of very strong men who are very confident in themselves and okay to compete on a level ground with women and encourage. So I think that helps as well.
When you say women are encouraged, I like the term encouraged. Are they being encouraged to compete with men in their own parties at this nomination stage? Are they being encouraged to participate in the process, perhaps with the hope that they could get nominated? Are they being encouraged just so that the voice of women can be heard where previously it wasn't being heard, so people can know that women are just as capable as men in conducting campaigns and so forth? What exactly are they being encouraged to do?
I think they're being encouraged on all fronts. They're encouraged because the party leadership believes on the issue of gender equality. They're encouraged because the party recognizes that you cannot lead with only one section of society. And I think also to demonstrate for future that women can lead and to encourage others to come along, the best way to do that is to encourage the ones who have shown an interest and support them, so that if they win or when they win, there'll be another 10, 15 next time who have been sitting there knowing they can serve this country, but they haven't gotten out because they're scared, maybe. They think the political terrain is very rough, or they think they don't have enough resources. You know, many people ask, how do you do it when you don't have the resources? Or can't bear the fights, you know, and the insults that come with sometimes this job. So I think the party is deliberate on that. The second thing is that we have a women's league in the party, and I think they will be working very, very hard to ensure that we increase the membership, the women membership in the party across the board, not just the people who are vying, but also the members, you know, those people who say, I'm a member of UDA. Yeah.
Governor, we're talking about the women's role and position and prominence that they're being given in the UDA campaigns. And we're asking you this because, number one, you're a senior member of government. You're a cabinet. You have been a cabinet secretary. You are a governor. You are now in the UDA. So we assume that you're in the inner circle. You're also influencing what's happening. And you'll be able to champion the voice of women in that campaign. So you've told us what the campaign is doing to support gubernatorial candidates. There are 10 so far that you've said that have expressed interest across the country. But what about the other seats? What about members of parliament and members of the county assembly? Currently, our county assemblies are full of nominated women and not many who presented themselves to be for election. Same thing happening to our National Assembly and to our Senate. Are we going to see UDA sponsoring, identifying and sponsoring women candidates for all these positions?
Actually, it's really unfortunate that we don't have that many elected members of parliament or members of county assembly across the country, because I believe that there are very many women out there who are qualified, who are interested, but are not in. What is UDA doing? I think it's very difficult for UDA to say that we'll pre-select women candidates. Even the ones for governor, they did not choose them. They encourage everyone to come forth. So it just happens that these women have come forth. And it's really, let me say, brilliant, to say the least, because for a woman to come up and say, I'm going to run for governor, it's not a small thing. So for MPs also, they're being encouraged the same way. Please get out, join our party. We will provide a level playing field. And usually that's really what dissuades women from even starting to get into elective politics, whether at MP or MCA. That level playing field. You've had the statement condemning political violence and harassment, even against other candidates, and especially women. And that, as a position of the party, will encourage more women to come forth. However, even as I say this, and I hope many who are listening to me who haven't quite come out will now come out and say, I'm interested in this, or I think I can try to run, is that we still have a lot more men who have expressed interest in the MP seats and MCA seats, even with all this encouragement, even with providing them the platform. Like, for example, when the deputy president goes round the country, when he stops somewhere, he provides the candidates for that area the platform to introduce themselves to the public. And he doesn't discriminate whether you're a woman or a man. So long as you've said you are in UDA, you're interested in running with the UDA ticket, I want to run for an MCA, they're actually given a platform. And the same platform that the male counterparts are given.
But Governor, sorry to interrupt, but this doesn't sound any different from what has happened before. There's a court ruling that has said political parties in next elections have a duty to ensure that they have women candidates. Now, what is UDA doing as a duty to ensure that it has women candidates? Not just standing up and saying, we encourage women. Is there an active awareness creation, an active identification of suitable people who are local opinion leaders, local influencers, who can then be propped by the party?
The tricky thing about that is in a democracy where universal suffrage is the one that determines who becomes the candidate, you have to be very careful as a party to ensure that you do not look now, as you push the gender issue, you do not discriminate against the men, because you can't come, for example, in Kirinyaga and say, dear constituency, let us look for a strong woman, and then talk to the opinion leaders, and then they'll tell you there's a lady called Njoki who's pretty strong, and then you start profiling that woman. You can't do that in a democracy. Why? Because now you'll be accused to be be counterproductive when it comes to the issue of allowing a level playing field. The only thing you can do as a party is encourage and promise the women who come up. Like, for example, India right now, a member of parliament is in UDA, and is a very strong candidate, and is male. You will just tell, if there's a lady who wants to run against them, they've been told you will be given a level playing field. We will support you. When we come here, we will not announce that we prefer this person to this other person. There is no such announcement. And so you're given the level, equal opportunity. The second thing is we are running workshops, and the party, I'm sure you know, our Secretary General is also a lady. That tells you where UDA places women, because that's a very powerful position in the party to have been given to Veronica Maina. She's actually running a program, and within the party structure, a women's league that is going to be going around encouraging women and also training them on various things that usually people are not very familiar with in terms of how to prepare to be a candidate, or how do you run a successful campaign. But you cannot pick an individual and say you're going to prop this person as opposed to propping somebody else. I think that would be going against,
Within this same democratic space, we have a term that is used fairly often.
Affirmative action.
Thank you so much for reading my mind and reading my lips. Thank you. Now, to break the cycle of habit that Kenyans are accustomed to, and that is having male political leaders, something has to be done.
That is true.
Leaving this whole exercise to the vagaries of the electioneering process and the voter will not get the desired results. So, affirmative action, propping up people, it is also within the democratic space. And I personally find absolutely nothing wrong with it.
That's true, and I'm very impressed, actually, when I hear that from a man, because it's very encouraging, extremely encouraging. Because usually it's them, actually, who have a problem. The minute you say, for example, someone tried to say that we should do 50-50. Let's say in cabinet you have 50 women, 50 men. The first reaction you usually get is no. And you say, why not? In fact, it's possible to have a cabinet where you have 70% women, if you look at qualifications, and 30% men. But they say, no, our society hasn't quite reached there. How do we reach there? And that's a good question. I think parties have grappled with that issue. And where there are strong female candidates who can make it, the only thing a party can do so that there is no fallout, because you see also a party must stay strong, and you must end up with a majority of elected seats. You just don't want to create a situation where you now end up with very weak candidates, because all your strong candidates, especially the ones who are men, run off, and then you're left with women who may not necessarily win. Let me give you an example, because they won't run against themselves. This is our party, right? We have to get the best candidates who can beat the opposition, because the opposition will also be bringing candidates. So if you take somebody and then cause a fallout, and then you don't have that support, then you will have a very big problem in terms of ensuring that you get the seats that you require. So it's a very dicey situation. What I see the party doing, other than this encouragement, the training, the workshops, having women aspirants coming to meet some of us who have already been there to encourage them. I think the best way to do it is show an example that, look, there are women leaders who have come out, they have run, they have won, you can do it, and we are here to support you. And then when they emerge, you hopefully, with all that support, provide a level playing field so that the strong women candidates win the tickets, because you do not want a weak woman candidate to win the ticket. They will not win the election because there will be an opponent from another party who will come. So you must also bear that in mind. So I think the most important thing for parties to do and a party is to be deliberate, to encourage and assure. And so far, I think we're not doing as good as we should in terms of the numbers we have seen of women who are interested. The percentage, I think the last we checked, we had about aspirants, about 17 or 18% women candidates have declared an interest. It's not good enough. I was hoping would be at about 40, because not everybody who runs wins.
Yeah.
So that you can now at the end have maybe 30% minimum. But we're still encouraging them to come forth. And let me say this, if the media helps us, if you help us, talk about this thing out there, encourage women, I think we will have a lot more strong
No, we are
women
encouraging
candidates.
the party. Just like Sitia said, affirmative action. We are encouraging the party to take more action in bringing out and identifying women who can vie, identifying women who can also then, if right now the law allows a party to nominate people into the county assembly, women into the county assembly, encourage women to come out so that they can be identified by the people. So by the time they're being nominated to the county assembly, people know them.
You know, when we talk about affirmative action, Your Excellency, it doesn't just mean that in a competitive setup, you tell the men to step down and look aside and let the women take the phone. No. Everything that we're discussing here seems to be geared towards meeting a need for the coming elections. I had in mind something which is futuristic and something that takes into account a long-term view of how you do these things, so that it's like a football academy where you start training kids from the age of 3 or 4 or 5, so that by the time they're even in their adolescence, they're already very proficient. That's what I was thinking of, because as a party, I would assume if you're here for the long haul, your plan ought to be long-term.
In fact, now that you say that, on the long term, if you're talking about long term, this is how it's working, and this is what the party will do. There is the nomination process, When we don't achieve, if we don't achieve the 30% gender rule, every party, like our party, will be expected to provide a list of people who will be nominated, And on that list, we are pushing for a zebra list where you have a male and a female, male, female, male, female in terms of priority. And if we don't achieve 30%, what happens is that you go to that list and nominate the women who are according to the order that you have written, until you get 30% before you consider any gentleman, right? Now, the long-term view is this. When you get nominated, ideally, this is what should happen. You're being provided an opportunity to get yourself known. 5 years of being a member of the county assembly, you have an opportunity to learn what it means to be in elective politics, to contribute, to represent your people, to speak to people, and prove to other people out there that you can be elected. We are expecting that those people who were nominated will be the ones who are now on the ticket running as candidates, isn't it? Unfortunately, not all of them are. Unfortunately, for various reasons. And that's why we end up with the 17%. Because if all of them, or 70 or 80% of those who are nominated, women, for example, in the county assembly, ran, then you have a very high chance of at least getting the 30% now, or nominating less people in the next county assemblies and in the next parliament. So in terms of long term, that is how the party will work on the long term. And then with the Vibrant Women League, which constantly trains women, provides a platform for them to be coached, like I was just suggesting earlier when we were off air, on how to talk to the public, how to speak when you get the microphone? What do you say when you stand? How do you sell yourself? If you go on social media, what kind of pictures should you put? Do you check your cultural background and what it is that they would be appealing to your electorate as opposed to others? So I think in the long term, that is there within the UDA Party Women's League. But
coming to understanding all of that and coming to your administration and the way you have run this first term, there's certain things that pop out. Looking at the members of the county assembly who are not necessarily very happy with you at some point and how you ran things, and now coming to seek a second term.
Do you believe that?
Do I believe that? I think it's more important how you deal with that, coming now to ask, for a second opportunity. How would you reconcile that?
Let me clarify. As I said earlier, the issue of my county assembly and the wrangles between county assembly and the executive are normal in most administration was sponsored, and I told you that. Right now that there's no such thing. We are very well. You haven't had a single issue in Kirinyaga for the last 2 years because there is no that push from wherever it is where it was coming from. And if you look at the issue of county assemblies and how they deal with the executive, it's very easy because of the limited resources that we have at the county level and the way that money is devolved or the way the functions are devolved to create tension. Kirinyaga, for example, has a very small budget, right? We have a budget of about 4.6, 4.7. They were increasing it, I think, this year at 5.2. A lot of that, about 3 or so, goes to recurrent expenditure, staff, and now medicines, etc. You're left with the development budget of less than 1 billion. Now, imagine 1 billion. Then the county assembly has priorities, and we have our priorities. You will have friction, for example.
Friction. But who would sponsor such friction and why? Who would take deliberate move, and why would they do that?
It's really obvious. I made it very obvious, and I've already talked about it at the time. We had a senior government official who had whatever interests in the county, and they did that because of their own personal or whatever reasons. I don't think I would know the reasons why, because I'm not the one who was doing it. But that is known, and I think I don't want to dwell too much on that issue because I made it public. I put it out there even on social media, and I was very clear that this is what you're doing, and I think it is very unfortunate that you can be supporting this kind of animosity or funding this kind of animosity in the county to bring or stall development. But that is easily done when you have that kind of tension where there's really no resources to do whatever it is that both the executive and the county assembly wants to do. So if you notice, our disagreements were around the budget. I was stuck that we must build the hospital and we must finish it, which to me was a priority. On this side, they had their own priorities because there is a county assembly headquarters that wasn't finished. There are other county offices that they needed to build, the ward offices, which I was thinking maybe we should postpone them to next year and finish the health side first. So we had that a conflict in terms of budgeting. And as I said, it is normal in when resources are not enough and where expectations are very high. And that kind of back and forth is not that bad, because what you end up doing is you sit down and deliberate and eventually agree on the way forward, who gives in what at this point in time. But when you're being funded from outside and someone is saying that we have to make sure that she doesn't get a second term, and they've started 3 years before, for whatever reason, whether they have political ambitions or whether they have preference of who should have been or should be, then that is another story. Now, coming back to the issue of women, there is also some people generally who have a problem with someone being a woman. I mean, and being in a leadership position where they are not bending over backwards or almost worshipping you. This particular individual, I think that is their problem. Their problem is I am not one of those people. They are used to people bowing down.
Okay.
There are very many people who bow down to them because of their position and power. I am not one of them. I really have never been that kind of person. I think I can engage one-on-one, and I think I respect you, you respect me. But I think that is what really offended or made them take that.
So misogyny could have contributed to this.
I think so, because I can't tell what else. What is really their problem? You know, it's not like I'm in their space. So it's difficult sometimes for women leaders, and it happens. It happens at the workplace, in private sector. It can happen in public sector as well.
Governor, I'd like to ask a question here. Just bringing it back to national politics as we're heading into 2022, August 9th. And you've been telling us about what UDA is doing, to support women, to prop up women, to support the cause of women. You're a woman, you're a strong person. Are there conversations that are taking place on how the choice for running mate are going to be made in UDA? Is there a possibility that UDA could actually pick a woman running mate? And are you on that list?
I really, to be very honest, I hope and pray that our deputy president, when he chooses his running mate, he'll choose a woman. I hope so. However, in the discussion of the choice, or whether who should be the running mate, I don't think that's a conversation that is done at like a committee or whatever. At least I'm not party to that conversation. I'm not aware of any such. What I know, because from the discussions and conversations, is that the decision on who will be the running mate is the decision of one William Samoei Ruto. And everybody respects that. He has told them, if there's anything that you will allow me to do, is that I will choose my running mate. The only thing that we are expecting is on the issue of where does that running mate come from. And I think the conversation and agreement so far has been that that person will come from the Mount Kenya region, hopefully. Now, so I think that is what I would say. Would I be a candidate?
If he goes with the Mount Kenya region, then you are in the running to be picked as a running mate.
Would you hope that it was you?
Okay, I think it's a great honor. It would be a great honor to be picked as running mate for the UDA party. I think so, and I think it would be a great honor. But right now, all my efforts are on Kirinyaga County. Let me put it that way. But I would hope that.
But then, why Mount Kenya? Now we have UDA. You have new partners who are joining. You have ANC. You have Ford Kenya that's joined. There, the leadership of ANC and Ford Kenya is strongly from the West. Why Mount Kenya?
Why Mount Kenya? Mount Kenya because of numbers, mostly. We all know the numbers that come from there. We even look at the support that he is getting. It would be, politics is a game of numbers. And you have to check where you need which numbers and which ones can you consolidate. And I think the basic understanding has been that the running mate will be coming from that side because you want to carry the block along. And I think if you don't pick a running mate from there and the other side picks, it's very likely that you lose a huge number from this side going that way. So in politics, you have to balance. But even now, I'm sure he's balancing and he's considering the implication of the new partners.
It's true, Excellency, but politics is also a game of optics.
Well, not optics. Bottom line, even when you have optics, those optics had better bring you numbers. It's not enough to have optics and then not have the numbers to win. I think that is a very delicate issue that he will be handling, and I think...
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.